So my role currently is the National Education Manager at New Era Technology, the New Zealand part of it. I became a primary school teacher for a couple of years, then moved to the dark side, which was secondary school, where I'd done music and theatre studies and English and things like that. So I taught that, became a head of department, a bunch of other things, trained as an ambulance officer along the way, become a deputy principal, did all the courses tracking towards being a school principal, somehow got tied up with doing a whole bunch of technology things and change management things in the meantime, doing postgraduate study, went and joined New Era as working with the client management team, schools in the organisation, and making sure that technology is actually making a difference to teaching and learning. And aside from that, I do a bit of training with groups like the Highlanders, and bits and pieces around public speaking, do a bit of TV because I can.
An all-round good bloke.
Oh, I've got like 6 kids too. So.
What was your first job, and more importantly, what did you learn from that experience?
I was briefly in Australia that taught me the most. Ironically, it was the shortest job I've ever had in my life. It was selling cell phone plans in a mall in the Sunshine Coast, and I lasted 22 minutes because I found myself standing there amongst these Australians in their flip-flops or jandals or whatever it's called, trying to say, hey, can I talk to you about your cellular calling plan? And I realised very quickly that I never, ever, ever want to do anything that has no connection to any good whatsoever.
Yeah.
So having a bit of passion and belief in what it was I was actually doing was always going to be something that was important to me.
You're a leader in every way of the word. What makes a great leader?
I can only reflect upon what it was, the leadership attributes that I've admired in people like my father, the people that I've worked with at every level, like yourself, Liam. And these leadership qualities that I've learned off you through my journey that I've been able to reflect. For me, great leadership is actually, at the moment, is kind of what I'd call an environmental manager. A great leader has the ability for people to create an environment for people to be their best. And again, I'll steal it from my father, who was asked by the great Jeff Wilson when he was coaching him. He said, or somebody asked him about Jeff Wilson. He said, how do you make Jeff Wilson a better rugby player? He said, I can't, but I can make him want to be. Providing an environment where people can fail, where people can succeed, where people can be nurtured and grow is critical. Are people who do that. They inspire people around them, whether that's from the front or from behind, to create an environment where they
I spend time when I look at other people, and I sort of go, wow, you've got this sort of hidden talents that maybe they don't even see themselves.
There's a real irony around that, because I've worked with people that have this incredibly high opinion of themselves, but actually aren't particularly good. They lack the ability to stop and self-reflect. As I always say in leadership, so if something goes wrong in an organisation, the first thing you have to do is to look in the mirror and go, what have I done or not done that has influenced this situation? I may not have provided the support they've needed. I may have, whatever the rationales are. And if, look, at the end of the day, if hand on heart, you can say, I've done everything that is feasible within this particular context. And sure, you can have those tough conversations. But if you're not looking in the mirror as a leader, then really, how can you expect anyone else to? There is nobody who's perfect. All the great leaders we see reflected in society, and no matter what facet, are relatively humble, actually, around their own ability. It's other people who put them on these pedestals.
What do you look for in staff?
Capacity is massive for me. I think of our good friend Tim Foley. So Tim Foley came to New Era, and Tim had no background in sales, really. He had a very, very small background in service delivery. But what he did have is he had massive capacity. He could learn. He could learn quickly. He had huge, I look for empathy as well. And this is whether you want to call it emotional intelligence or whatever you want to call it. It's the ability to be able to stand in someone else's perspective and understand where they're coming from. And I think the other thing I really look for is authenticity. I have a real problem with people who just fake it all the time. It's very, very easy to see through it, and they don't tend to work very well in team environments. I will take somebody who has capacity, drive, integrity, authenticity well over someone who's been doing the job for 15 years or whatever.
That happens 9 times out of 10 that I see. They're hiring people off their resume, their experience. And like what you're saying, they're not seeing the potential. Forget your ability right now. It's like, where are they going to be? Where's the Tims of the world going to be in 3 years?
That's right. Absolutely, completely agree with you.
Yeah.
The difficulty is that some organisations now are in that state, particularly around human resourcing, where they say those things. They say it's actually about potential and growing people and this and that. And they say it, but actually when they put it into practice, there's a massive gap. They don't really do that. They go back to the defaults. Looks at the CV, goes yes, no, pile based on X, Y, and Z parameters. It's like, that's actually the very, very worst thing. If you were gold mining, you wouldn't do that.
And they keyword it as well now. What advice would you give to students looking to enter the workforce?
Shut up and listen.
Right.
A little bit. It's really easy to approach things thinking you've kind of got this perspective that you have experience that you don't. Keep your passion and enthusiasm. Keep that positivity. Be aware that this organisation doesn't owe you anything. That sounds really harsh, but some people think like that. And in the same way that when people leave a job, they feel this, many people feel a sense of guilt. So, well, actually, you don't owe the organisation anything. If you turned up every day and you did a good job and you invested in it and you were paid, there's no need to feel any guilt.
How do they go about getting a job post-school if they don't join university or after university?
Relentless.
Yeah.
So I've done a bit of acting, right? And one of the best things that acting ever taught me was rejection. But go out there, take the opportunity. Don't be too fussy. Do something, and don't close off to anything.
Because I also think that they should try and talk to their parents, their neighbours, their coaches, anybody in their circle, and listen to them about their jobs, because their idea of the dream job doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist.
No.
And this whole I'm going to go out and get my dream job, this and that. We've got a lot to blame for fairy tales, and we've got a lot to blame for people not being hardened up a bit and saying, hey, sorry, you're going to have to do the crap job for a while, or not the job you want to do in the immediacy. But that's a stepping stone.
I've got here, younger generations tend to get misunderstood and receive unwelcome labels. What's something positive that you'd say makes them great?
I think that they're open, they're passionate. I think our young generation at the moment are a lot more aware of what's going on in this world. In fact, on Wednesday night, I was having this conversation with a 71-year-old man at a place where my son was playing live music, which was beautiful. And he was watching and he said, look, I've seen these young people get up here, and they are actually very open. They are very connected with what's going on in the world. Sometimes so much so that it becomes confusing. But I think they're quite a phenomenal group of people, a connected reality of their circumstance when it comes to their impact on the world. They're way more aware in terms of environment, of the social injustice and things that are going on, and less tolerant of it. But I think it's a great question you've asked, Liam, because it is very easy to throw the baby out with the bathwater when you've got the commodity of experience.
Jokes about avocado sandwiches and all the rest of it to millennials, and I'm thinking, I said to my mom years ago, I said, our generation are going to do some amazing things, and like you said, with social justice, sustainability, environmental, gay marriage, like all of those things have come. All the movements, it's the millennial generation driving that in a big way. One area I noticed in my corporate life is a training gap between hard technical skills and soft interpersonal skills. How can companies address this?
I think good companies are. They're actually investing.
Do you support work experience, work experience or internships between educational institutes and corporates?
Yeah, 100%.
Because I actually think that everyone should be a teacher anyway. They should be teaching somebody else. And if they're teaching a student, it will just actually bring up the skills in the team.
Well, the thing about teaching fundamentally and pedagogically and even neurophysiologically, we get this information. If you're able to tell someone that information in a clean and coherent way, it actually myelonates your neural pathways. It makes your understanding better. So teaching makes you literally smarter about what you do. You can't explain it to the Tinker Maid.
Yeah. If you could meet anyone, Who would that be and why?
I'd actually meet my grandfather, who I never met.